Foundation Course Kabbalah, Part 2, Lesson 31. Rabbi Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. Kabbalah is for that man who overcomes his weak nervous system and who wants to overcome himself and who wants to learn other higher methods and not only what makes him feel good. We still have no power, no kilim to hear. The issue is not that it should be fine. It's spiritual work. It is a movement from the inside. It's about working out certain forces within, and the issue is not how it is said. For the human ear, it can be inhuman. Asking questions, most of the questions that are asked are essentially a reaction of only one question. You must learn what to ask, what is and what is not a question. No question is when you have a question, a shortage, something you want to know, what is inside the mind, within your earthly mind. That's not a question. Everything I have said to you everything I have said you can, there is already enough to answer that question. If you cannot, then it means that you have to, or you have not gone through all those lessons well enough, that it didn't come into you, and you failed to justify the operational system of the universe. There's where your work is. If you have a question about our life, this life, then it means that you need to work on yourself. You ask about this world. It is about the inner work. It has nothing to do with the culture, religion, or whatever. It's all about your inner self. You must muster forces, firstly, to justify the operational system of the universe. These are the eternal answers we have spoken about. We need to work on yourself. You need to work on yourself. You have to go to above your understanding. What is above your understanding? Here's a huge secret. Nowhere you can hear that. If you keep asking questions from your mind, from your culture, and the like, it is an endless thing. If you go above your understanding, it means that you have no power to accept it. I accept. To go above my understanding, that means, of course, I cannot understand. It is as a human that I have to justify something. But if I say no, at that time, I deny the goodness of the operating system of the universe. Then you should say to yourself, I lack in my justification of the creator of the laws of the universe, and I have to work to bring those in harmony. Understanding that's about forces and not about people, like Hitler or anyone else in history. Of course, as a man of flesh and blood, you can not justify it. One must be tried by the earthly laws. If you forgive inside your mind, that is 0.0, which is just to drool yourself. It is your self-love that says forgive the other person that is within your own mind, which is nothing. Forgiveness should come above your mind. That is, to forgive, you must do the inner work. That is to forgive. If you forgive in your mind, then you run the risk. Then you build a victim type because it is within your mind. It does not help. Forgiveness is to go beyond your understanding, that you understand from inside your feelings that it's horrible. How can I forgive? No, it means that we go beyond our understanding to forgive. We should not forgive the man. He deserves earthly punishments. We do not forgive that person. We forgive them in the light of the merciful Creator who created everything to the best of the best. Creme de la creme. And then I don't feel that. But I go beyond my mind and I say also that is good. Why? Because to go beyond your mind and to say that is good, that's where you already need strength. For just say, I forgive. That is 0.0. If you yield strength within yourself, faith, trust in the system of the only creative power, then you will spiritually go very fast forward. When you will find no hindrance in daily life. You should always justify inwardly and go beyond your understanding. Beyond your understanding means I have no strength for that, but I have to do it over my mind and justify it. Also, that is good. In the context of the eternity is good, and know that you're trying to comply with the eternal. That's the difference. Are you willing to do that? Then Kabbalah will give you everything, what you can't buy with money. Justifying is an ongoing process until you come to a point where you absolutely justify everything. All this falls under the governance of the single creative power. The laws of the universe. Everything is so and not otherwise. All is well. You should know that from above comes absolutely nothing. Now I speak against myself. From above comes absolutely nothing. Remember what I say. I do not only speak words. In the back of my head is the Kabbalah. Later I will explain to you with the 10 Sfirot. You can explain everything with those 10 Sfirot, because that is the operating system of the world. Those 10 Sfirot, and no more is needed. Nothing more has the Creator created. In the 10 Sfirot, you can explain and understand everything and gain the powers with those 10 Sfirot. Nothing comes from above before it is fueled from below. Remember this. This is the law of the universe. This is always true in each situation for any government. Whatever power is there, it is always right. We always talk about those things that are valid. It is not my opinion. A Kabbalist never gives his own opinion. A Kabbalist makes himself absolutely tiny. The smaller I make myself from inside, the more you will receive. And I get more and more because I make myself small, which is a very special law. From above comes nothing before it is fueled from below. It is something. If something is brought to life, such as Nazi Germany, it means that it was fueled, encouraged from below. That power of Nazi Germany was called to life and not from above. Remember that this is a law. It's hard, but I will explain to you later by the 10 Sfirot, and then it will settle into you where you will always understand it. Those 10 Sfirot, but it is still too early. You must first go beyond your understanding, your faith, trust, justification of the operating system of the only creative power of the universe. As you produce more power in that, then I can tell you more. Even if you do not have the power yet, but trust that everything above is in the sense of course, comes first from the bottom up. Our actions come up and everything that's generated from below is taken from above, downwards. If we mess around in the environment, for example, what as a result comes from above? Acid rain. What do? Property to property. You should always assume justification, and only then can you say the Sfirot, each Sfirah that's under has huge. Let's put it this way. There are 3 Sfirot. We have Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. In the ranking, Keter is the largest, then Chochmah, and then Bina. Keter is the greatest. There's nothing he should be afraid of. It is the origin of everything. He has everything within himself. Chochmah is next. Chochmah, fear, is the next Sfirah. Why? Because Chochmah does not have the powers to be Keter. She has, on one side, awe for the Keter, but also awe to look down to Bina, and is willing to go down to the next Sfirah. From her own position, from Chochmah, she's afraid to come down. Even this is important, but each Sfirah justifies her own existence. And one, of course, strives each Sfirah to the higher, because everything comes from the light, from Ein Sof. On one side is the awe, and on the other side it is huge longing to get there. If you're dealing with the spiritual, you should never think that it grabs something. The problem is that we're always projecting something outside, cynicism. The side from the outside, not from me. Always we must say that it is in me. It is my problem that I encounter nuisance. Always it's in me. And the whole idea is that will all the apparent misery that is there or touches your life, no matter what, I always have to endure the most. That you become temporarily resistant, are able to experience everything with joy, absolute joy, everything. If you don't have that joy, you must say to yourself, I still fail, I have work to do. That's your job. It is important that you justify the governance, the laws of the universe. Without it, no work, no Kabbalah. That is the basis for everything. Nothing you will understand and nothing will you do. Just your mind will say, that's great. Nothing else is needed than the 10 Sfirot and the 22 letters of the alphabet. Just on the basis of those 22 letters, we can master forces that all. Do you remember the story of the man who could not pray but could speak out the 22 letters? So the first condition is that you justify in your mind, then you want to know something, and then beyond your understanding, which means, of course, that I do not understand it, there is shortage. You have to see how you yourself have to deal with that deficit. Work. You should try to justify regarding the laws of the universe. No matter how small your problem may be, you must always connect to the operating system of the universe, and linked to it is the end goal. My goal towards the goal of creation, or the goal of creation towards me. You must always connect with the purpose of creation, for only to sit and think, now I live, this is my response, without a connection with the target, your ultimate goal, that is no movement. Just by sitting in the posture lotus, it does not flow you will kill yourself. You must be in motion, not without cause. An Oriental does not understand what his purpose is. We make casual connections. Everything is connected with each other. Every move we make is connected to another movement, all aiming for a particular purpose, for perfection. Your ultimate goal should be so overwhelming that you are in full motion. The ultimate goal must shine for you. It should attract you. There should always be movement. You should always work on your goal. No one knows the ultimate goal of the universe. Nirvana, what do you do to achieve with that? It's childish, primitive. Of course it gives you liberation, feeling, but what is your goal? If you want nothing, of course you have to say to each time, but it should be within your striving to the goal. If you know where the universe was created, then you yourself can thus reconcile with it, because that is the truth, and not how I feel. You must learn that the Creator is good and does good, and this is something difficult to learn. Faith is something that is not appreciated. In our world, intellect matters. That is within your mind. Your mind is keen. You recognize that. But beyond the mind, which man cannot recognize, it is not interesting. The Creator did not create us to be intellectual. Intellectual comes from my macho feeling. Woman, macho. All my ego is macho. My ego wants to believe that intelligence is important. Overcome yourself. Overcome your intellectual needs to be intellectual. I do not understand, but I justify. I warrant that the Creator is good and created the creation good, but I still have no power. How should I? What should I do to bring me in accordance with the eternal towards me? That's what you have to do within the mind. The woman wants to understand everything. The feminine within the mind. It is the feminine element who wants to understand. And if you want to go beyond your understanding, then you need to stop with the female element. Has nothing to do with man or woman or flesh and blood. It is the feminine element in man. Overcome yourself. Inside the mind is the female element of the intellect. Overcome to go beyond the mind. Everyone has come here to make corrections to his own soul. When do you make corrections? Everything is in you. Everything you see in the other person, all those negative and positive forces, that's your correction. Everything that has been corrected is and will stay corrected. You come here to correct those properties that are not corrected, because what already is corrected does not need to be corrected anymore. We correct that which was never corrected, and that we must all do. Everything what's in mind covers the truth. It's easy, but you must go beyond your understanding. Everything science comes to the consciousness that it understands nothing. That's the end of the road of science. It still does not understand, and then you should go beyond your understanding. The smallest working with faith is worth more than the greatest genius, mental genius in the eyes of the eternal. The smallest who can master faith above his mind. If you can muster faith beyond your understanding to justify the operating system of the universe, then you are higher in the eyes of the eternal than any intellectual whatsoever. If you want that your application is accepted, you should always ask for another. If a sphira goes, if you have a lack somewhere and you bring prayer, always bring prayer for someone else. Not because we are so good, so is the law of the universe, because the man is released. Malchut wants something, has a lack of light. So Malchut gives, as it were, does take off the man, prayer, regarding Ze'ah. Ze'ah is a higher power, male power. And then Ze'ah goes further upward, must yield his own man, his own prayer, but not for him, but for the benefit of Malchut, and it will rise up. And then he will be answered. Filling, and that filling he gives to Malchut. But he's also fed by the filling that he gets. A bit of filling he pulls himself and also gives to Malchut for her. If you want your prayer to be granted, you should always ask for others. Then you're a medium. Here is a huge secret. We will do and we will understand. But the problem is we want to first understand, and only if I find it plausible, then I can assume or accept it. What I tell you, that should be the rule. Always ask for someone else. Involve them with all the weak. Of course, if you say, I'm going to involve the higher, how can you? The lower in your prayer also involve the higher. It's always about your family or about others. You need to pray for those who do not do it, then your prayer will be answered first. If you do only for yourself, this is definitely a spiritual law. Your prayer is answered when you first pray over other people's needs. If you do not do that, it is whining. You ask for yourself, it's childish. Is whining is inside your mind, and the operating system does not answer those questions that are within the mind, because in the mind means that you have appointed another master within you over yourself. Your own mind or your car or your other desires, that is not seen. Of course, you will get a little power, but it is childish. You are thereby not growing. You should always ask for others. If you want to grow, you should do that. So prayer, always pronounce, involve others in your prayer. Look in your mind to all those people who have a lack. Take them with you in your prayers. Try to take it with you, then the importance of your prayer is greater, instead of inside your mind about your own needs. Abraham became Avraham, the B became the Che, which is the corrected 5 Sfirot. In the Sfirot, it is always so. There are always 3 layers involved in the correction. 3 Sfirot are always corrected to corrections. 3 layers, say 3 Sfirot, 3 heights. The first, the lowest, which turns to a higher for strength, and the second to whom the lowest has focused, which is going to form his own prayer with the prayer of the lower, and that goes to the higher, to the third, which when given to Ein Sof and then back gives the strength to the second, to the higher, and always gives double strength. Double does not mean 1 plus 1. Give strength to that second plus the power for the lower. So the second to whom the original prayer was addressed, who gets double from above, double does not mean qualitatively the same. Gets for himself the largest portion because it can handle it, and lower will always get fewer, a smaller portion, because he cannot eat everything. It's always so. You should always ask for another. You get the largest portion thereof, and the one for which you ask, that's the rule, which is Kabbalah. With our mind, there is no spiritual movement. Just like in our world, there is no salvation. You cannot find it in this world. Nothing good can come within the mind. You must learn to listen, hear what I say. Even if I talk about everyday things, you have to work on yourself. I cannot do that for you. During the lesson, I bring something from within me. I do a spiritual movement, spiritual work inside to also bring the forces over to you. So I have only a small group, so I can approach all of you. I want to give you everyone a portion. What I do every lesson, I take all your worries inside. I talk with my hands and with my tongue, but I work within. I'll take all your worries, simple spiritual concerns, not of your mortgage or your relationship, only those things that radiate from your inner being. Those emissions from you I take on myself and let them come up. What you all radiate on me, that I lift up. That is prayer, man. You should always ask for another. I ask for someone else and I get most from above. You get what you can absorb, but I get the most. You have to do work that I cannot do for you. You must work on yourself. You must overcome. You must tell yourself that everything is meaningful, even misery. Apparent misery is meaningful. We have to deal in our world with phenomenon of memories. We must recall some event, just as Liberation Day, Remembrance Day, etc., commemorations, memories of whatever. You should understand one thing thoroughly. Of course, it's good, human, within the mind, in the earthly sense, to make all kinds of couplings of memories and commemorations. Humanly, it is stunning. What's wrong with opening monuments, etc., but humanly seen, that are all good things, funerals of spiritual leaders, beautiful, the whole world watching. Do you have a bigger show? Perhaps the world's finals football, but all those wreaths, beautiful. Look how man enjoys, how good I am. It's all good according to the laws of the lower world, earthly sense, but what concerns us, it is the 0 point, without value, less than 0.0. It is negative for us, for you, for all of you. It is negative to do commemoration and the like. That's all within your mind, earthly sense, morality, all sorts of things, inventions, clever inventions of your evil principle of our ego. You flatter your ego. No, even the whole society can taste it, how good we are. It is a projection of self-love for something that is covered good. For our spiritual work, it is, what can I say there? it is even negative. Of course, that's shocking when someone hears this, but I'm not talking about these people, childlike. Do you think the Creator is happy with that? Look at those children, political terrors and selective feelings. What is it? Of course, there comes a certain strength from top to bottom, but it is within the mind. For God, it is the absolute zero. Nothing comes up. It comes up maybe first floor, well ahead, second or third floor, but no further. It all remains in our world. It is like emotion. What is emotion? Is emotion a spiritual power? Only a spiritual force emerges. Inside the mind, your words keep hanging in the air. Inside the mind, it makes you feel good. You'll get a kick, but it leads to nothing. You must cry inside. Do you have to cry for the victims? Nonsense. You must live now. At this time, you must live and not cry for anything else. Whenever you think of the past, what event whatsoever, and not to now, you sin against the Creator with all your wonderful remembrances, reminders. You sin against the Creator, against humanity in the higher sense. You choose the nursery instead of opting for the university. What makes sense? Give up your mind. Suppose it is the last day of your life, then you can still do a few things that last day of your that last you the rest of your life. Last day means you have to master strength to accept the spiritual, to go beyond your understanding. 1,000 come into the classroom and one comes out. If you cannot muster the faith, then you have to turn to the Creator, who wants the truth, comes here and will get it. Who wants light is sitting here in the right place. Who wants the best of life, the creme de la creme, which you get nowhere, not in a university, church, or synagogue, he will make it. But you have to overcome yourself, overcome your resistance. I already said it in the first lesson. Do not resist. You have to go beyond your understanding. That's all. It is beginning and the end. That is the Alpha and Omega, or in Hebrew, Alpha and Tav, or Aleph and Tav. We believe only because we do not experience God beyond the mind means to say that you do not understand, but that you believe that it is good. Experience, faith becomes experience. Your faith becomes experience. You're going to see it. If you remain in the earthly sense, you're in the dark by your earthly rationalizations. You must surrender yourself. Surrender your earthly sense. No one comes to the experience, the spiritual, without first being reborn. On the last day of your life, can you be reborn? But preferably before. Even on the last day, you can still repent. You need to predispose every day for light. It means to every day go above your mind, and then you forever, every day, experience miracles. Even every time when you read this, come above your mind. Teach yourself to surrender to the higher mind, simple and yet the stumbling block. With all your learning, you will not get in eternity. But with the smallest surrender, which you do with the heart and soul, everything, yourself, trust that first, and then the rest will come. If you go above your mind, you will fall. It's falling and getting up. But at some point, you still fall, but you feel worn on the wings of the Shekinah, the Divine Presence. A moment to experience this is worth living. Go beyond your understanding, that's all. Then you will fall, but only then you will be able to experience the spiritual. Only then you will be benevolent in the eyes of the eternal, from eternal life. You should assume that the operating system of the Creator is absolute, perfect, and immutable forever. What is beyond our understanding, you must muster strength to trust everything you perceive as negative, cynical, or whatever. You should know that everything is in you. It's your deficit. God is in me. God is everywhere. The idea is that you make yourself receptive to experience it. That's your job. Any problem that comes to you, you must justify. You need to learn each time to master strength to justify. Everything you need to justify, you do not understand. There you must muster your strength. The more you justify, the closer you come to Creator. You come closer to the truth. The mind is not wrong. The mind should not dominate. The mind needs to get involved with your faith. Justify everything. The mind must participate. Walk with your faith. Faith must stand above sense, meaning above the degree of faith must be more. must be higher than the level of the mind. Faith must always be above reason. Then the mind feels as it were in place. Sense is not given as a supreme something. It's just a tool. It helps you on your way in life. But in the West, the faith is twisted by the mind, and in the East, they have chosen another impure force. Discarded the mind absolutely because of his heart. And their heart is beautiful, but it does not fit because there is no sense attached to it. That is the extreme right and left. Any thought that does not rhyme with the knowledge of the universe is like a seed, is like a kind of a soul who comes to you and forms all kinds of ideas. And it finds in you, clothed by impure forces, it gets a body because an idea cannot live without a body. So ideas, all kinds of ideas, strange ideas, except the only idea and eternal purpose. Ideas that form you who are clad in body, a kind of wrapping, forms, and that are forces. All kinds of forces exist in terms of ideas that envelop qua forces and bodies. In all relish of your forces, you have built up all kinds of bodies, all kinds of ideas in that 2,000 years are enveloped, which have sucked from you, forces which have, as it were, made wrappings around those crazy ideas, legend, myth, heroism, all kinds of things that are still in man. When they sing, we are the champions. All those forces that are built in the Middle Ages are then stimulated. Why so? These were ideas that are not consistent with the laws of the universe, and they are coded with certain forces who are also creative powers. But when you're working on yourself for the eternal, to come to terms with the eternal laws of the universe, then they break. We do first. We break all the wrappings, all those ideas that we need to break. Then all these ideas, even if our eyes working ideas, that will just go away from us and make place for the true reality. All those casings, all these ideas, all these impressions, we made casings of it, idols within us. Those casings are made by all kinds of things. Now you learn Kabbalah. You will destroy all those casings through the light of truth. And that hurts. The light of the Creator, faith above reason. It's up to you for all the antibodies that you have built, your parents and your ancestors, all kinds of fantasies, delusions, cultural, and so on. Each nation has its own delusions. You should not think about that. Now, you must work through the Kabbalah to break down, first, of all the casings, and then get all those ideas that were caught in it, that you always form in yourself. They always come up. They run into you. They run into yourself like you. First, they harass you. Why? They want to get out. You made all kinds of casings, and the Kabbalah says it's all lies. All reminders. If you want to get rid of those bodies, those idols, of those forces, witches, and all who play tricks with you, to experience shocking things and are willing to hear them and to do work, you need to work on yourself. Everything written in the Torah, even if you do not understand, when the Torah gives certain admonitions to who speaks the Torah speaks to the impure forces in man. Kill all those ideas, delusions. Make no image in front of my face, because image means you have ideas, and every idea cannot exist without man encasing it. Our thinking is encased, a thicker form than with which an idea is encased. That's what the Torah speaks about. The Torah speaks against the impure forces, the bad in people, against that part of the human being. Of course, outer man is okay. That part of man which draws all those ideas, delusions to itself by sin. By sinful thinking, we get all kinds of encasings. And where do these encasings come from? They suck as the result of impure forces. Suck at that, and the impure forces envelop the delusions. That is the misery that awaits. That misery that awaits man when he does things that are not in accordance with the laws of the universe. The side effect is that man has misery in his life. If the Torah talks about blessings, to whom is it? That is against the good side in man, against the side of the man who listens, to the inner man, who is willing to listen. If you read something that you should not do, and you follow that, that means that the impure forces, impure ideas will not get a chance to get inside you and be enveloped in you and to feed from you. Inner forces which can experience eternality are perfect for every man. Absolutely. It is about eternal life. For all the good people, for all the good in people, there is a sin in the Torah that is not forgiven. I have not spoken about it yet. I'll do that next time. It's a tough, hard situation. Man must work on himself thoroughly to not do that one sin. Your faith should be greater than your mind, greater in use. Always go beyond your understanding. If you do not correct yourself, you will never get out. This you should know. Work on yourself. Make yourself clean. Get rid of those antibodies, those casings that you build yourself. This is not a work of a man, since you have to go beyond your understanding. Drawing 31 guidelines for asking questions both to yourself as to your teacher. Please review these guidelines. They are listed out in the written material.